It's time for the Gold Show. Jonathan Rose, CEO, President of the Capital Gold Group, and Precious Metals Investment Strategist is with us today. Once again, Jonathan, always good to talk with you.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here and help educate our listeners on the valuable advantages of adding gold to their portfolio. And on today's show, I know we've got a lot of hot topics to discuss, one of them being, China trying to take the US dollar and create their own super currency to replace the ailing dollar. And these are just one of the many topics that we're going to be covering on today's Gold Show.
But before we get started, we would like to make sure that everyone has in front of them a copy of the freshly updated Gold Guide, the 2009 version, so that they can find out just the story on gold and what they need to know to get started. And Jonathan, I understand it's normally an $80 value, but today, for listening to this show, they are going to get that free. They won't even have to pay postage for it.
Nope, it's all taken care of, gratis, of Capital Gold Group, and it's theirs when they call us toll-free 800-510-9594. They'll get the Gold Guide. They'll actually get a DVD that comes along with it too, and it will show people how to purchase gold at the lowest possible prices, which gold coins and bars will give you a better return in the future. And if you have a retirement plan, whether it's an IRA or a 401k, we'll show you how to roll that over, just like it was featured in the Wall Street Journal, into an IRA backed by solid gold. It's all in there, and it's free for the listeners for today on today's broadcast at 1-800-510-9594. That's 1-800-510-9594.
Well, Jonathan, let's get started. I was watching one of the news channels, and they said it used to be just the subject of people on the margins talking about the idea of our money being replaced or ever changed. Now, the mainstream media is beginning to talk a little bit about this. What is this about China wanting to replace the U.S. dollar with a new reserve currency? Explain this.
Well, as I was mentioning on the previous show, how, the G20 summit, which consists of 20 of the most powerful countries in the world, countries like Russia and China, I guess they're really trying to stick it to us right now, because their argument is because America has caused this worldwide global credit crunch that the U.S. dollar really isn't seen fit to be a viable reserve currency for around the world. So countries like China and Russia are trying to delegate themselves as maybe putting the yuan and inflating the price of it as maybe being that as the reserve currency of the world. Now, I personally don't think it's going to happen, but people are talking about it, and some countries are trying to push it. And again, this isn't good for the ailing U.S. dollar right now, because it's kind of like the final straw that broke the camel's back. There's so many problems, whether it's the credit crunch, whether it's companies not just downsizing, evaporating, people scared of rampant inflation due to all the stimulus package with all this money that's being spent, and now this. It always seems it's one thing after the other. And when there's uncertainty in the market, whether it's in our country or worldwide, one thing remains constant, and that's gold. In fact, gold is considered a flight to safety and security, and one of the reasons people invest in gold is they look at it like insurance, portfolio insurance. So just like you have health insurance or car insurance, people realize that as a part of a diversified portfolio, you should be having gold to make up a piece of that pie. And if you're working with a financial advisor, and he or she is not recommending gold, you should ask them why. Because not only do we help members of the public listening to the show today purchase gold, but we also work with tens of thousands of financial advisors and broker-dealers across America that use us to be their gold suppliers. So now that even these financial advisors can sit down with their clients and offer gold to them. You don't have to do that. You can get it directly from the source, straight from Capital Gold Group. And if you want to know how to get started in gold, we've got gold specialists standing by right now to take your calls.
Well, let's share that number, because I know there are people listening who have heard us drive home this point every week about how unsettled the markets are. And when there is this unsettledness, people want to go to some place of safety, something that is tangible, that won't go to zero, that's not just a piece of paper. And gold has offered that for many, many years.
Absolutely, and in fact, it may have been looked at as a backseat investment in the past, where everyone was, investing in the dot-com era. But things have changed, and it's nice to have something stable in your portfolio that's going to be there when you need it most, and that's why people's retirement accounts are most at risk. If you have a 401k or an IRA, you should really be looking at taking a portion of that and shifting it into gold. And people can get more information from the Capital Gold Group when they call in today. We do have the $80 gold guide. Again, it's free for listeners on today's broadcast. They just have to pick up the phone and call us. It's 800-510-9594. Again, that's 1-800-510-9594. In fact, they can see us online too at www.safeasgold.com or safeasgold.us.
And so, Jonathan, just another example of this story that you led with here. When China suggests a new global reserve currency to replace the dollar, it's just one more sign that the world is saying, hey, that dollar is slipping. It's going to be, battered because of so much money that's been printed up by this country, to try to get out of this tough economy, that if we're not hurting now, we're going to hurt 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, and they're putting out the warning signs now.
Absolutely, and it's not people like us that's going to pay for it. It's our children in the future that will really be paying for all this mess that has happened right now. And and the dollar will eventually turn around. It's just not going to happen overnight. All markets are cyclical. So even the gold market, I'm predicting gold has got a strong 4 to 7 year window of a strong run, and then after that, guess what? Gold will probably come back down as the market recovers and the dollar recovers. But right now we're in a situation where it's a prudent man that foresees danger and prepares. And as there's all, it's like a minefield out there, people are realizing that, hey, maybe, this stock market is very volatile. I've been losing a lot of money. People are reading stories about the FDIC themselves going bankrupt because, let's face it, they can only lend out so much money, and then the Treasury just turns around and prints more money. So, it's an insidious cycle, and it actually doesn't fix anything. But what you can do is, protect what you have. And there's reasons why members of the royal family, heads of states, they've been using gold to preserve their wealth for centuries. It's no secret. And if you haven't found out the reason why, now's the time.
Well, we're talking with Jonathan Rose, President and CEO of the Capital Gold Group. We're talking about precious metals, gold. And, Jonathan, let's talk about the percentage of one's portfolio that one should consider switching over right now, converting into gold.
Well, you would definitely want to look at anywhere from 5 to 30% of what you have in paper to be moved, to be moved sideways into precious metals that you get to hold on to. And people were just asking me the other day, is there a difference, when you're holding gold versus maybe a gold stock or an ETF? And I explained to people there is a huge difference, because the safest and the best way, in my opinion, to invest in gold is to do just that, physically hold on to the gold coins, whether it's an American Eagle, Canadian Maple Leaf. These are the type of gold coins, even the older gold minted prior to 1933. The safest way to own gold. When you invest in a gold mining stock or a share in a company, first of all, you're investing in the market still, plus you're investing in the management team of that company. So, who's the CEO, who's on the board of directors. So, that's a big variable right there. Plus, if they don't mine any gold out of the ground, you as a shareholder won't make any money. So there's more variables involved when investing in a gold mining stock or a share. The safest way to invest in gold, the only way I would invest in gold, is to physically hold on to it. You have your wealth in your hands. You can touch it. You can see it. And there's a reason why Wall Street traders have been running around screaming, cash is trash, cash is trash. And that's because, the dollar's becoming worth less and less. And a lot of these Wall Street traders and pundits are explaining to people and yelling at people, this is the year you want to be invested in intangibles, something heavy. If you dropped it and it landed on your foot, you went, ow. They're talking about gold. And obviously you don't have to drop it on your foot to own it. You could actually get about $1 million worth of gold in a shoebox, believe it or not. Now, it may be a heavy shoebox, but, gold really does not take up that much space than you actually think.
Well, Jonathan, we're at the end of the first quarter of the year, and people will start to get statements on how their first quarter investments went, their 401ks. They will be shocked again as they continue to be battered, although there's been some recovery a little bit in the market, not like the losses they've taken. And so many of those investors have been advised by their, the people who sold them these things to just sit sit there and just let it stay there. It'll be okay. Some people are not sitting there anymore. I talked to one financial advisor who finally said, well, maybe it's time for a recovery strategy. What does that mean? That means you were wrong before and now you're going to try to fix it?
Yeah, it's funny. They've had their chance, and the reality is, people who are saying, just ride it out. Well, maybe not the best idea, because if you listen to people like Warren Buffett, and he knows a thing or two about making money, one of his big statements this year was, the days of double-digit returns are over in the marketplace, and you need to find other viable vehicles. And I think he also said that, some people plan for Saturday night and other people plan for their future. And I think, one aspect of that he's talking about is when it comes to investing, he's long-sighted. Warren Buffett, he looks at events that are going to unfold down the road and how it's going to affect his financial portfolio. And I think that's one of the reasons why Warren Buffett recently acquired the two largest gold manufacturing companies in America, because not only